What could possess a man to kidnap his king? In the Game of Thrones, one act born of desperation will doom a ruler faster than 100 acts born of ambition. The history of Westeros brims with leaders blinded by their own lust for power, though none of them ever so bold as Lord Denys Darklyn of Duskendale. How this man's quest for elevation descended into staggering foolishness we shall discuss in today's journey. If you enjoy this content, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. Also, join us on Patreon for more content. Now let us commence. The city of Duskendale is one with a storied past. Once a king's seat during the Age of the 100 Kingdoms, it boasted the largest port in Westeros for many a century. The city was forced to relinquish this honor, however, when Aegon invaded the continent and razed King's Landing. In the capital's shadow, the city witnessed the slow erosion of its prosperity as King's Landing's influence grew ever larger. Denys Darklyn, the young lord of this declining port, was determined to reverse his luck, and with it the decline of his house and harbour. Lord Denys was intent on winning a charter that would see Duskendale gain more authority from the crown, not unlike Dawn many years past. Across the sea, such charters were common, he reasoned, thus this demand was not an exceptionally vast one, or so he thought. Along with his charter, Denys sought to be granted lower port fees and tariffs to allow Duskendale once more to vie for trade with King's Landing. The Hand of the King, Lord Tywin Lannister, firmly rejected his proposal, for granting such demands would doubtlessly set undesirable precedent throughout the realm. Spurned and infuriated, Lord Denys crafted a plan of such folly that it would forever be branded the Defiance of Duskendale, the very height of hubris. A seemingly innocuous invitation to Duskendale was sent out to King Aerys. Lord Tywin, as Hand of the King, strongly counselled the king against accepting. However, the relation between king and hand had grown frayed to such an extent that the mad King Aerys could be relied upon to do the exact opposite of any counsel given by Tywin, just to spite him. And so Aerys accepted. With a small retinue led by Sir Gawain Gaunt of the Kingsguard, King Aerys carelessly walked into the heart of Duskendale. The entire party was immediately seized, and Sir Gawain was slain along with some of his men in an attempt to protect the king. Some say the young lord was fueled by a mix of ambition and desperation, though many claim it were actually the whispers of his meerish consort that were the driving motivator behind his actions. This consort was a woman by the name of Lady Serala, though her detractors dubbed her the Lace Serpent and accused her of pouring poison into the ear of their lord. Whatever the case, the capture of the king sent shockwaves surging through the realm, sparking calls for immediate action. Yet the large walls around Duskendale and the formidable Dunfort that was the ancient seat of House Darklyn made taking it by storm no easy task. Lord Darklyn's assurance of the king's death in case of an attempted rescue only complicated things further, ultimately staying the hands of those who clamoured for blood. Lord Tywin Lannister acted decisively, sending out ravens and riders and building up forces in the region. He opted for a siege, encircling Duskendale with a host sizable enough to blockade it both by land and by sea. Surrounded from all sides and cut off from supply, Lord Darklyn's resolve began to falter. All his attempts at parley were staunchly refused by Tywin Lannister, who accepted nothing other than complete and unconditional surrender. The siege had lasted for 6 long months already, and within the walls moods had shifted for the worse as stores and larders began to run dry. Starvation loomed, yet Lord Darklyn was somehow still convinced Lannister would buckle and offer better terms. The man clearly did not know Tywin. The Hand of the King sent one final demand for surrender. Failing that, he promised to take the town by storm and put every man, woman and child within to the sword. Some accounts say a bard was sent along with the demand to sing them the Rains of Castamere as a grim reminder of the ruthlessness Lord Tywin was willing to show with unruly vassals. At this point, most of the small council accompanied Tywin outside the walls of Duskendale. Some argued against Tywin's plan to attack, stating that this would almost certainly drive Lord Darklyn to put the king to death. He may or he may not, Tywin is reported as having said, but if he does, we have a better king right here. He then raised a hand and pointed at Prince Rhaegar. These words can most certainly be confirmed as having been spoken, as most of the small council had been there along with the crown prince. Yet, peculiar enough, such words of treason did not seem to have raised any objections at that moment, not even from the king's own son. Perhaps those present had recognized the truth to Lord Tywin's words. In any case, some were led to speculate as to the true intentions of Tywin's plans. By threatening to storm the castle, did he hope Lord Darklyn would give in? Or did he hope for King Aerys' death so his son Rhaegar could succeed him? These questions matter little, for it was Ser Barristan Selmy of the King's Guard who offered to enter the town in secret, sneak into the Dunfort, rescue the king and spirit him back to safety. Despite regarding this proposal as utter madness, Tywin did respect Selmy enough to give him one day for his attempt before storming the town. With his bare hands, Selmy scaled the walls unseen, then disguised himself as a hooded beggar and stalked his way up to the Dunfort. Again he scaled the walls, though this time he was forced to slay a guard before he could raise the alarm. Incredibly, Ser Barristan managed to make his way into the dungeon where the king was being held. It did not take long for the king's absence to have been noted, however. The alarm went up and men swarmed after them. Striking first, Ser Barristan took Lord Darklyn's good brother Simon Hollard unawares, boldly slaying him as well as 2 guards. With the king in tow, he fought his way to the stables, killing anyone who tried to intervene. Before the castle gates could be closed on them, Barristan and the king raced out into the night. A wild ride through the streets of Duskendale ensued. Trumpets and horns blared after them as they made a mad dash for the walls where Lord Tywin's archers stood to keep it free of defenders. Accounts differ on the influence of Lady Serala. Was she a malign foreign seductress? Was she the one weaving underhanded plots in the Lord's bed, or was she merely a convenient scapegoat for Lord Denys's own failings? The truth, as ever, remains shrouded within mystery. Now that the king was safe, there was little left to do for Lord Darklyn but surrender. Though if he had known the terrible vengeance that would transpire, perhaps he would have opted to take the plunge from his city walls. But as fate would have it, Lord Darklyn was presented to the king in chains. Aerys demanded not only his death, but the deaths of his immediate kin, as well as his aunts, uncles, cousins, and all other distant kinsmen that could thus be identified. Even the Lord's good kin, the Hollards, were to be removed root and stem. One boy, Dontos Hollard, was spared on the request of Ser Barristan Selmy, and the king could not refuse his saviour this boon. Lady Serala received the worst of Aerys's wrath, her tongue and womanly parts torn out before she was burned alive. In the aftermath of the Defiance of Duskendale, King Aerys II emerged a changed man, his ordeal having exacted a mental toll that sent him down a spiral of madness. The indignities he suffered at the hands of the Darklyns, being manhandled, unrobed, even struck, instilled in him a profound paranoia. Upon regaining his freedom, Aerys could not bear the slightest touch, even from his own servants. His appearance grew increasingly wild and haggard, with hair unkempt and nails left unattended, allowed to grow out into long yellow talons. He tolerated no blades in his presence save for the swords of his Kingsguard, the sworn protectors who became the instruments of his tyranny. In the years that followed, Aerys's rule grew ever more erratic and tyrannical, his judgments marked by a harshness that spared no one. Retreating into the confines of the Red Keep, he shunned the outside world. Locked away from the world, his distrust only festered and festered. His suspicions of those around him deepened, his distrust focused especially towards Tywin Lannister and his son Rhaegar, believing them to have plotted to storm the walls of Duskendale so that the king might be killed and his son could ascend his father's throne. The Mad King may have been wrong on a good number of things, though on this one, he might have had a point. If you've made it this far, perhaps you'll be interested to know you can support our channel through Patreon, where you'll find exclusive videos and royalty-free artwork. Currently, our video on the Golden Empire of Yi Ti is live. All patrons will be credited in future content as well. Though if you would rather support us through liking and subscribing, we would be grateful all the same. That being said, we would like to extend a huge thank you to our patrons, Marco R. and Lady Grey Mystique. Your patronage definitely helps us in creating more quality content. That was it for today. Until the next one, fellow travelers, and may you all fare well.